Welcome to TransActioner. Let's take a look around using examples from Texas. When I first log into TransActioner as an agent, I'm going to show up at my dashboard. On this dashboard, we see the most recent active transactions. There's 4 across the top. These are the most likely ones you might be trying to find because you've been working on them most recently. Or if you have older transactions you want to access, you can click on transactions at the top here and see all the ones under contract, active listings, and active buyers. And this will be all of the ones that are active, or you can click all to get everything, including archived ones. So from the overview page, this is when I first log in, we also have a calendar. The calendar is 4 days. We got yesterday, just in case we forgot to do something that we need to pay attention to. We've got today, and then we have the next 2 days. On this example in yesterday, we can see the address for this particular item, and the thing that I was supposed to do is enter listing in the MLS. When this is listed as blue, that means it has not been done yet. And so if I click on the drop down here, I can go into that transaction if I need to take care of something. I can also just mark this complete, so I'm going to do so now. Then we also have down at the bottom the documents waiting signature, kind of a reminder if there's some clients who have not signed documents that you are expecting them to sign. Now you can click on this block here or up here and take you straight into that particular transaction. When you go into a transaction, you go to an overview page for that transaction with the photo that gets auto imported from the MLS if it has access to it. You got your calendar 4 days again. These are for just this particular transaction, as well as documents waiting signature just on this transaction. You've got parties. These are all the people involved in this particular transaction. We've got one seller. If you had another client, a second seller, you can add it here. And other parties are all the other people involved in this transaction. I've already set up a lender. I've got the name of the buyer. We typically don't get the email address for the other side's clients, but I like to add them to the other parties, at least their name, because then it will auto-populate the forms. And then we have the buyer agent already listed here with information about their assistant and their transaction coordinator. Anytime you share something with the buyer agent, in this example, you would also be automatically notifying the assistant and the TC as they are helping that particular agent. When we go to documents, this is the heart of our transactions. This is where we have all the documents used for this particular transaction. And in TransActioner, we do keep track of signatures. In this example, we'll see these buttons for each of the roles of parties who are involved in the transaction. When the button is gray, that means that person does not have access to see that particular document. When you send a document for signatures, their button turns orange. That means they haven't signed it yet. Once a particular party signs the document, then their button turns green. That way you know it's been complete. They have signed that document. And if you click on a button, such as the seller here on the seller's property notice, that means you're sharing the document with them. Most documents, when you share with the other party, they just view it. They can view it and they can download it. There are certain forms, such as the seller's property disclosure, where you may want the seller to fill that out themselves. So when you share it with them, I'm going to show you this is what the seller sees when they log in. So on this particular transaction, the 6535 South Point, I have one document to sign as the seller. And then down at the bottom here, I can also see that the seller can view and download a couple documents, and then they have the fill out button specifically for the seller's disclosure notice, because that's one of the forms that the seller is supposed to be able to fill out. So here they can type in some Y's and N's or U's, whatever they need to do for this particular document. Now, what happens if I sign this particular document. So as the client, I'm going to click the sign button. It's going to take me right to where I need to sign. I can still scroll up and zoom in or out. If I click the box where my signature goes, I can type in here if I need to add trustee or anything weird like that. Otherwise, I just pick a signature style. You get 3 options. Click the submit button, submit the form when all signatures are done. And what happens for the client, brokerage disclosure, will now show up in my shared documents at the bottom because I don't need to sign it anymore, but I can still view and download. Now what's really cool too is in real time, as the agent, when the seller signed, I get to see that the seller signed the document and their button turned green. We could also take a look at the history down here, and this keeps track of all the workings of what happens within this transaction. And this includes events that your transaction coordinator, as well as your assistant or co-lister or co-agent may be doing as well. So you shared a particular document, you can keep track of when the listing agent logs into a transaction and when they view your offer, which is really, really good. When you're a buyer agent, you want to know when the listing agent sees your offer. There's a lot more you can do in here. You can do tasks and keep track of when the deadlines are, as well as any of the to-do items you need to do when you're working with your clients. And then we've got emails as well. So if you need to send out another email, you can also set up templates for your emails so that you're not having to retype everything or copy paste out of Word document. You set up a template such as this, and you can then just select which one you're working on, and it will remember from your template, oh, this is typically goes to your sellers. You can CC yourself or BCC yourself or anyone else if you want the lender to inside information on this. And then you can still edit everything from your template. And then when you do send, in the bottom right corner, click the send button, and then you can see, if you click on email history, you're going to see all the past emails that you have sent out to all the people, whoever they are. So you've got all the wonderful tracking of what's been happening in this particular transaction. Now, if I were to go and create a new transaction, let's create a buyer. Just going to throw an example in here. And let's go buy this house. So it does try to import from the MLS. You do want to make sure that things are correct. If it finds the listing agent, it will automatically add it to your parties for you. All right, so import your legal description. Then we auto-populate your transaction with some documents that you may want to use. If you have brokerage forms, we can also process those and then auto-include them. So let's do a quick example, 1 to 4 family. We've got something really cool in here. We do auto-populate, so things like the seller and the address can be auto-populated and all the other information. I'm just going to scroll down to a neat feature that we have down here. So if you have some checkboxes in here, they have to pay for an improvement district assessment. You're going to do an environmental thing. And what else do we want? You have to be part of an HOA. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 addendums that I need added to this transaction. We auto add them to your transaction. So I'm going to click Save and Close, and you'll see we've added the addendum for the third-party financing, the obligation to pay, the HOA, environmental assessment. So all those got auto added to your transaction because we're all about efficiency and making things easier. And then we also, in the menu up by your name, you can go into your profile, keep track of your information. You can add what your default signature is, and that will auto-populate in your emails when you send them from TransActioner. You got your payments, you got your clauses. You can add your own clauses to make things a little bit easier when you're working with forms. Form templates, you can do task templates and email templates. This is how I did it when I was referencing those emails, and you can pre-designate who that would normally go to. So that's a general overview of how TransActioner works for your real estate contracts. We have a lot more detailed videos on YouTube at youtube.com/TransActioner, COM, where you can find a lot more learning and training videos. And please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have on how to use TransActioner.